Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tear, where I've been featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2645, and that one is With a Little Help from My Friends by Joe Cocker. Um, I featured another one of his songs last week. I featured She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, which was another cover of a Beatles song. I'm sure you guys all know at least this one, With a Little Help from My Friends. It was featured on here's a picture of the album, by the way. Showing a picture of Joe Cocker singing. And here's a picture. He played this at Woodstock, by the way. I think he also played She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. And I think you guys also know Woodstock was a huge, one of the biggest rock concerts of all time. It was a 3 day long music festival held in a big farm in upstate New York for 3 days in the summer of 1969. I was only 7 years old at the time. I didn't even know about it till years later. Go figure. But anyway, Joe Cocker was one of the stars of the show, and just amazing blues rock musician, amazing kind of raspy voice. But uh, yeah, I guess I just want to say a little bit about the song first. I was a little surprised to learn this. I actually only learned this last week. I never really liked Joe Cocker's renditions of the Beatles songs. I mean, I think it's really, really hard to cover a Beatles song and do it well. And, I was never a huge fan of Joe Cocker before, and I kind of, most of my life, I sort of felt like he ruined with a little help from my friends. I felt like he didn't really do justice to the Beatles, in particular Ring of Stars solo performance on that one. But I learned something new about a week ago. Apparently, Paul McCartney himself, and I think the rest of the Beatles, actually thought Joe Cocker did a great version on this song. So who am I to say he didn't? If the Beatles liked it themselves, then it must have been pretty good. And of course, he had a half a million fans cheering him on while he was singing it. So I guess it couldn't have been that bad. And actually, I've grown to like it more over the years. He did do a good job. He did a good interpretation. And, I guess I want to say one more thing about the song With a Little Help from My Friends. I mean, it's a good song. I think it's a song about how friends are important in your life. Friends can make all the difference in the world when everything else is down. And I think that's pretty much what this song is about. And I think maybe Joe Cocker captured the emotions of this song even better than the Beatles did. He probably did. I mean, the Beatles version was more of a pop version. But I remember my uncle, I don't know why my uncle thought this. My uncle bought my sister and me the Sergeant Pepper album. By the way, here's a picture of the Sergeant Pepper album. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this. It was one of the most popular albums of all time. I think it was the Beatles' most popular album. It was their first kind of concept album, anyway. Kind of marked a big departure from their earlier music. When they were touring, they became more experimental, starting with this album. But my uncle had told me, I remember when I was like 10 years old, when I think he bought me this album, my sister and me this album, when I was like 10, and I guess my sister would have been 8 or 9. This is, I think, around 1972, just a few years after the album came out, in 67. And, I knew that Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was in all likelihood a drug song. I mean, I guess John Lennon claimed it wasn't. He said it was inspired by his son Sean, saying that it was he said it was the name of a drawing he made. But I think that's very, very unlikely because the initials LSD. I mean, the odds of that are very, very small. So I'm pretty sure it was a drug song. And there's a lot of drug reference in that song. It's about a big psychedelic trip, which is what you might expect if you were high on LSD. So I'm virtually certain that song was a drug song. But my uncle thought for some reason or other that With a Little Help from My Friends was as well. I don't know where he heard this from. Maybe his friends in college told him this. But I remember my uncle, when I was like 10 years old, he said that what he meant by my friends was marijuana. And I thought that for years. But I don't think that's even true. I mean, the song's about friendship. I don't think it's about drugs. And I guess you can say almost anything's about drugs if you interpret it in the right way. The only song I know for a fact that the Beatles even admitted was about drugs, about marijuana. That was "Got to Get You Into My Life." I think Paul admitted that the song referred to marijuana. He had to get marijuana into his life. And I'm pretty sure there were some other Beatles songs that had drug references in them. I mean, I think "Girl," which was on the Rubber Soul album, you can hear them kind of, "Girl," and then you hear them inhaling the pot after they sing that. So I'm pretty sure that's what they were referring to there. And of course, Ringo had a solo hit in 1975 called the "No No" song. That's pretty clearly an anti-drug song, but he does refer to drugs in that song 3 times, as a matter of fact. Uh, but anyway, enough of that. The other thing I want to mention in connection with this song, with a little help from my friends, I think most of you guys know it was featured as the theme song to this very popular TV series called The Wonder Years, which I think is a really excellent show. If you guys haven't watched this show, I highly recommend it. It's about a kid, the one in the middle here, that's Fred Savage. He played Kevin Arnold. He was the main character on this show. He was a kid growing up in the late 60s and early 70s, kind of a typical American kid with a typical family. And, it's about all his perils growing up. But I think it's a very realistic show. That's why I like it. I think most kids about his age growing up at this time, probably in America at least, probably experienced very similar, life experiences to him. At least that's my feeling. So that's the main reason I like the show. Also, his reference to the late 60s, early 70s, and they played a lot of, popular rock songs in the background in most of the episodes. And they kind of go through a lot of the history of the late 60s and early 70s, but it mostly concerns Kevin's life. And then here's a picture of the main cast of this show. I'll just go through them. So Fred Savage, he's the third from the left. He was the one who played Kevin Arnold. And then I guess his friends included Danica McKellar. She's the brunette on the right. She was his girlfriend, Winnie Cooper. And then his other friend, they were kind of a gang of three close friends from I guess junior high and high school. The guy with the glasses, that was um, Josh Saviano, who on the show was Paul Pfeiffer, and then the others were his family members. The kid on the left, he was kind of bully his older brother. That was um, Jason Harvey, who played his brother Wayne Arnold, and then his sister. I think that's the one right next to him, second from the left. That was Olivia Dabo, who played Karen Arnold, kind of the 60s rebel. She was the oldest of the children, but she was also the most rebellious one, and then who else? The parents, I guess that included um, uh, Dan Loria, who played the father, Jack Arnold, as well as Allie Mills, who played his mother, Karen Arnold. So that was the I'm not Karen, Norma Arnold. So that was the main cast. There was actually one other member of the show who I should mention. That was I guess this girl who hated him in high school and in junior high. That was Becky Slater, created by Crystal McKellar, who was actually Danica McKellar's sister. And one more thing I want to mention about this show, the girl who played Winnie Cooper, Danica McKellar. Yeah, I think I got the name of the other girl wrong, but yeah, Crystal McKellar was the bad girl. But yeah, Danica, she's actually a math prodigy, and she's written some popular books about math. I learned this shortly after the show was on. I watched the whole show, by the way, and I really got into this show. And excellent show, and I think excellent acting job by all of them. There's actually one other member I should mention, the narrator. That was Daniel Stern. And he's a pretty famous actor. He became, I think he partly became famous because of this TV show, but he's been in a number of other of movies, and I think the biggest of his was Home Alone. He was one of the bad guys in Home Alone. Um, That's probably enough said about this show. And another thing I think about this show, maybe I'm wrong. I kind of think of it like a modern day version of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I mean, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that novel. It was by Mark Twain, very famous 19th century novelist and kind of satirist. And I guess he was kind of that concerned this kid named Tom Sawyer was supposed to be kind of a typical kid in the mid 19th century coming of age, and I kind of think of Kevin Arnold as sort of a 20th century version of him. But anyway, maybe I'm wrong. You guys can comment on that if you want. Anyway, that concludes my feature on With a Little Help from My Friends by Joe Cocker. Thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you next time. Bye.